we could create more personalized packs for people that people will be willing to buy. We then took the idea of a Candy Crush. Do you guys know Candy Crush? So, you're playing it right now? We took the idea of Candy Crush saying, okay, you get coins as you go, and as you get these coins, you can use them. So we create a currency. And people can come in, and they can buy more currency, or you just spend more time practicing, and you'll be able to buy more personalized packs. So we launched monetization of this about 2-3 months ago, and it's gone phenomenally well. So now I have engagement, I have users using it, I've used the idea of freemium from Dropbox, I've used the idea of currency from a Candy Crush, and we've applied it to something so different from both of them, which is test prep. So I think this is how the thinking can go. Food business, there's been a lot of hype in food. I assume, again, you're familiar with a Food Panda, a Tiny Owl. You've seen a lot of money go into a lot of these areas. When we looked at it as Zomato, we said, look, we would rather invest in the idea of being a better, let's call it McDonald's or Chipotle. Those businesses, interestingly, fast food companies, and I feel a bit bad fast foodizing the market, but it's an interesting opportunity, and I think there is value in a way to doing it. Those companies get multiples as good as technology businesses. They're valued as well, in some cases better. So, and you can build real businesses out of them. So we've opted to invest in the full stack. So in the case of Fasos, are you familiar with Fasos, out of curiosity? Okay. So in the case of Fasos, we make the food. We don't just distribute somebody else's food. And the reason was that in order for us to actually ensure consistency in what we do and be able to deliver in a certain defined manner of time, we had to own the full stack. We decided that, look, if I'm a Tiny Owl or a Food Panda, I'm subject to what that restaurant decides that it wants to do. So if I'm the local small Radhe Shyam restaurant owner, the order of priority I have for the orders coming to the kitchen are people in my restaurant, my customers who've called me directly to order, and finally, anybody else who places an order with me. And by the way, I am never going to bother to update my third-party guys on how my menu has changed. So what typically happens, and it happens if you've ordered from a Food Panda, a Tiny Owl, Scootsie, often what happens is you place the order based on what you saw in the thing. Then they call the restaurant and place the order. Then they call you back and say, but they don't have this thing today. Okay. So sometimes they actually decide for you they don't have this thing today and they're sending you this instead. That's not a great, consistent customer experience. And so we felt that it's better to do this. And by the way, you actually have real economics. One of the things I think that technology businesses have been painted with the brush of is not being fiscally responsible. I think that people feel that, hey, just raise $100 million every few months and you just keep burning money, but we build real companies. Actually, these are real businesses. These make money. The objective is that, and they will make a ton over time because they should have invested in technology that makes it scalable in a leveraged manner. That's the idea. That's why we bother doing this. Now, we're willing to burn, and that's the big difference. I think the mindset of traditional companies could be that I'm unwilling to put the $10 million in up front in the infrastructure, CapEx, technology investments, whatever it may be, and take the risk that it may take another 3 years for that business to actually mature. And then over time, it may or may not generate what we expect. Our belief and our hope is that these businesses make money. We're not in it with a hope and a prayer that someone buys us out. The other part of this, so one is mix and matching models and markets. The other side of it is really looking at the experience, the customer experience. And when I talk about customer experience here, I'm not talking about should we make the website blue or yellow. I'm really looking at what is the fundamental experience that we're talking about. So we invested in a company called Vroom, which is a used automobile marketplace. Now, at the crux of it, you could say there's already a Car Deco, a Quicker, a Car Trade. There's a bunch of sites that are listing cars. But the fundamental problem in the used automobile space is, how do I trust a used car salesman? How do I, as a buyer, know that that guy's not just trying to pull one over on me? And so it's not about access to listings. There's enough ways and places to get that, and the arbitrage between buying traffic here and selling it here is only so interesting. So what we did is we built a marketplace where we've actually focused on saying, okay, sellers need to build their reputation. We can do that. We can enable them based on feedback, based on understanding things, because we don't charge sellers to list in our system. Actually, let me take a step back. Our fundamental model is not based on charging sellers. Our model is based on taking a piece of a transaction when it gets done. So you want to sell your car, and typically we're focused on dealers more than individuals, but dealers typically are small dealers in any case in India. You want to sell your car, you can list it for free. If a transaction concludes, we take a piece of that. When we take a piece of that, we get all the data on the price at which transactions have taken place. In a country like India, again, where you don't have laws against selling a bad car, in the US you have something called a lemon law. You don't have something called Carfax that has all the data on the car and everything that's happened with it. You have non-digital odometers that can still be tampered with. So you have all these things to deal with. We now have access to giving you all the information about it. We're creating a database with all of the history of the car, plus what price transactions are getting done at, so that you know where it can happen. We believe we're solving the problem a little bit differently, but this is, in our mind, a user experience issue and thinking about a business model issue. Finally, in the jewelry side, we've invested in a company called Melora, where again, rather than selling jewelry like here, we feel this is selling it more like selling potatoes. We felt that jewelry is a more experiential item. And I know very little about jewelry, but the woman who runs this business knows a ton about it. And we've had to understand supply. We've had to understand how to actually facilitate manufacturing. This business is based on the idea that, in general, women's attire in India is moving from traditional to Western. As that happens, jewelry is not moving as rapidly and is not keeping pace with the change in fashion trends. So if we can build a, let's call it Zara of jewelry, to just make life easy, where it's following fashion trends and allowing for there to be current designs always available, then that's great. The problem in doing that is you have to make a lot of jewelry continuously. How we got around that was we said, we'll design the jewelry. These are all rendered images on the app. And so we don't actually make any of this stuff. It takes us 10 days to make it once you place the order. And we figured out how to use 3D printed molds to be able to actually facilitate the manufacturer to be able to make these. The molds will hold for about 50 runs. Beyond that, then we'll print it again. So it's using the different aspects of technology to hopefully deliver a different experience. Very early business. But again, we're willing to take a chance on something like this. So our view is, it's unique India, it's about user experience, and it's about unit economics. And if you can do these things well and be intelligent about how you think about it, you can build interesting businesses. This is today's reality. The largest taxi company has no taxis. The largest accommodation provider has no real estate. The largest phone company has no infrastructure. The most valuable retailer has no inventory. And the most popular media owner has no content. Could this happen? Could the largest home appliance company be a phone manufacturer? Could the largest furniture company be sell no furniture? And could the largest aerospace company be a crowdfunded product? So I think these are the things that are worth considering. And if you look at it, change happens fast and is happening faster. This is the first 6 quarters. The green line below is the iPhone. The orange is the iPad. And the blue is, the iPod, and, the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. And if you look at it, that's cumulative. So, right? So if I say within 6 quarters, the iPad sold 40,000 units. And that's 6th quarter. So just the sheer pace at which people are willing to adopt will get bigger and bigger. So once I have a smart water purifier in my house, my willingness to buy a smart air conditioner, a smart rice cooker, a smart air purifier, it's just going to grow. So I think that you have to get in early on this, with the caveat that I have been wrong many times before. And so I'm willing to say that, look, this is the game I play. It doesn't have to be the game you play, but there will be people that will keep taking shots at this. So I think the question becomes, are you willing to accept this? And if you're willing to accept the idea that you failed, I think that you'd be willing to take a lot more chances and you'd be willing to try. And it's the only way, because everybody else out there is going to be willing to do this. Trust me, I have no problem failing. We fail a lot. And there are many other funds like us who will fund people who are ready to fail a lot. I think you have a great position. You have a trusted brand. You have great market insights. These opportunities are much more readily available to you. I think that you'll be in the position to do it. Just a question of whether or not you're ready to embrace this idea. So that's the show from my side. I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any more thoughts.
Sandeep, I had a question building off the last comment you made, right? You said that we have a trusted brand. Now, in all your activities, these are new companies that didn't exist before. Have you encountered a situation where it wasn't the idea, it wasn't the service, it wasn't the experience, but you found brand coming in the way of an idea becoming well? So in this new disruptive world, how important is really brand, and where is it that you've seen it make a difference?
Yeah, it's interesting. Brand has not played as strong a role in it, to your point, I think, is that we found that brand is actually built based on the product and service that you're offering and not necessarily taken for granted. And so, again, I was with the guys at Xiaomi the other day, and they were telling me, they are now in India among the top 10 e-commerce sites. They're from a volume standpoint, I can't remember if they are at 3 or 4 right now, or they're moving up. They have spent a grand total of 1 front page Times of India ad on marketing. They don't spend anything. So now, I'd say that's a pretty strong brand overall for the country. Again, I had the same conversation with Starbucks and the fact that they don't spend a significant percentage of their money on marketing. Now, I think that you can build the brand in different ways. And so you are today in a position perhaps where you can start not having to worry about that. But if you don't build the right product and service, forget it. The brand will not carry you through. I can't think of a situation where the product or service was fantastic, but for some reason the brand destroyed it. In our world, it seems much more that as long as you're getting that right, I mean, you can call it Xiaomi in a country like India and people will figure it out and buy it.
Do you think the brands, on the contrary, are the inhibiting force in terms of people trying to experiment and fail? Since I'm such a trusted brand, I just can't take this risk. For that matter, like Godrej, for us, I can't be seen outside going there and failing under a brand called Godrej. Would that be a factor?
I think it is, but it's in the brand's head. I'll put it this way, that I think that it's harder and harder for you to avoid interacting with customers, no matter what you are as a brand. And I'd say the bigger risk would be that, look, if you're honest and transparent about what you're doing, and you're able to turn around and say, look, we're going to give it a shot. And look, you have various ways to do it. You can not call it your brand explicitly and do whatever, but let's say you decide to call it the Godrej Smart Lock, and you put it out there in the market and it fails miserably. Say, all right, look, you're going to get a lot of feedback. It's how you gear yourself up to responding to it. I don't think a brand, I forgot the example, but we have one where it was very clear that the brand jumped up and down and said, we are great, and you look at their social media page and they're telling you that they're crap. I mean, everybody has gone and said, your product is terrible. Now, you can put an ad out there and say, I'm the best product out there, or you can believe that your brand means something. But tomorrow, if everybody in social media and everybody everywhere else has a different conversation going on about you, then I think you're going to have a problem. Now, you can take that same challenge and use it as a benefit, and you can launch a product, but as long as you're geared to respond correctly, I think you can navigate it. But it is a consideration. I'm not downplaying it, but I think it's a manageable risk. The alternative of not doing it for that reason is probably worse.
Now, part of the examples that you've given and that we see all around us are... hello. Yeah, bulk of the examples that we see, the largest success stories are actually...
No, could you just...
are actually ones that sort of add more convenience and address the inefficiencies that may exist in the current formats, and therefore pass on, the buck to the consumer in terms of, the benefit. So they're priced lower than the traditional formats in general. Would you be able to take us through examples or tell us what it would take to build, online brands or disruptive digital brands which actually add value and then charge a premium from the customers?
If you're thinking about it in comparison to a non-technology business or a non-technology situation, I'd say that one of the fundamental premises of the idea of using technology in the solution is to reduce cost. It's to make a better product or service, but it is also to take something out of the equation.
True, but that's exactly the point, that bulk of them are all operating in this model of sort of addressing the inefficiencies and therefore giving a more cost efficient, more convenient solution to the customer. Would that change in the future? Would we have brands which actually, or products and services which add value and therefore attract a greater premium without operating in the the traditional formats? Because we don't see too many of them today.
Well, I haven't priced. I'd imagine if I priced an August lock, which is a smart lock compared to a regular lock, it's more expensive. And so, right there, you could say that these types of things are. And I'd imagine the rice cooker that interacts with my phone is at a premium. The home appliances, so I'll tell you, I use a Sonos box at home that integrates all my music at home. It's more expensive than me just buying a pair of regular speakers. So I think that you're finding devices for in people's lives that they're interacting with that are integrated in different ways are more expensive. So, let's take the most simple of the examples. An iPod was more expensive than a Walkman. And so, you can say that products have done this over time. Now, over time, what will happen is someone will build a better iPod and make it cheaper. And then your point of reference will change. And so today, if my point of reference is smartphones were more expensive than feature phones were more expensive than landline phones. So you can look at it that way, but then going forward, you'd say, this smartphone is cheaper than that smartphone. Because now we're talking just about smartphones. So perhaps as you shift categories entirely, you end up with a premium. But I think that if you're within that category and competing within it, and you're now all offering similar value propositions, the idea is who can do it more effectively by leveraging technology in some way. I think to justify that premium, you have to be doing something fundamentally better. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I think that the August lock, for example, for me, does something fundamentally better than a key does. Or let's say a smart water purifier does something fundamentally better than the Eureka Forbes one that I may have at home, right? If you're doing it fundamentally better, sure. But if you're really incremental in it, it probably isn't going to justify it. Sure. Grab some more water.
Yeah. So, we heard from Mr. Verma that your success rate is very good as far as new investments, new business models is concerned. So if I were to ask you at 3 macro or 4 parameters or things you look at when you look at any new idea or new business model, what would they be? There's a second question I'll ask after you answer this.
Okay. So I mean, it's somewhat cliched, but it's true. It's the team. I think it starts with the team for us. You know, I don't necessarily think a great business comes out of the fact that you happen to just be in the right space, you happen to build the right product. You have that guy that gets it, or that woman that understands it. You have that group that comes together that is willing to just figure it out, to navigate through. I'll give you an example. We invested in InMobi, which is a mobile ad network. When we invested, our premise, the team's premise, was that there's an interesting ad market to be built in India on the mobile phone. At that time, there were 400 million mobile phone users. We felt that advertising is local in nature. Let's go after building a mobile ad network for India, and this is what we're going to do. What we realized quickly, or not quickly enough, and gladly, because we didn't realize it before we made the investment, but afterwards, was that the ad market in India was going to take time to mature. As it took time to mature, there was actually an interesting opportunity to leverage the same publishers we were talking to